The family had limited time in Toktakna. Before heading back to Bethel, they wanted to gather more food, such as the unique huchin, which is delicious and not available in Bethel. Without delay, the brothers set off in their boat to a clean riverbank where the rapid flow slowed down, ideal for fishing. Each took out a fishing rod and began fishing. Even though it started raining, it didn't dampen their spirits. Fishing was easy in such resource-rich spots. Just a fake lure was enough to keep the fish biting. Soon, Gage caught the first fish of the day. Huchin, a cold-water fish, is so sensitive that human body temperature could allegedly kill it. Its meat is highly prized, making it quite expensive. Fishing turned into a friendly competition between the brothers. After Gage caught the first fish, Avery felt the pressure, switched to a better bait, and soon landed his first fish, which was even larger than Gage's. With their fish caught, it was time to search for another type of game, mallards. Since these waterfowl are very alert, the brothers had to proceed slowly along the river. Upon spotting their targets, they would turn off the engine and glide forward using paddles. However, the vigilant ducks noticed the hunters from a distance and took off. Avery fired immediately, but missed, scaring off a group of ducks hiding nearby. Nonetheless, the area was abundant with waterfowl, promising more opportunities if they continued searching carefully. To avoid detection, Avery sneaked up on some waterfowl from the land at a river bend. By the time the ducks in the water noticed him, it was too late. Avery emerged from a favorable position and emptied his magazine. After the gunfire, several mallards were bagged. They gathered their game onto the boat and continued along the river, soon spotting two pintail ducks flying towards them. One shot was all it took to bring down both ducks. These ducks would provide enough food for the family for several days, so the hunting concluded for the day. They found a spot to prepare the fish, wrapping them in foil and cooking them directly over the fire. The fish were perfectly grilled, crispy on the outside and tender inside. Each brother enjoyed a fish, savoring their meal. After a satisfying dinner, they processed the day's catch of ducks. Unlike grouse, ducks have more meat, requiring plucking of all feathers and removal of the innards before consuming the whole bird. Overall, the family's luck this year was very good. They had over 300 pounds of salmon, 400 to 500 pounds of moose meat, plus heaps of grouse and small game like mallards. This winter, they were set to have a relatively easy time. Some say venison is so nourishing that eating too much can cause nosebleeds, but the local hunters here eat it almost daily without any issues. Today, hunters Marvin and Justin are heading to Olga Bay as winter is approaching, and they need to hunt a reindeer for food storage. It takes over an hour by boat from their camp to Olga Bay. As the saying goes, live off the land if you're by the mountains, live off the sea if you're by the ocean. These natives rely on both, so their menu includes almost everything that flies, runs, or swims, as long as it's legal. The reindeer herds were once close to human settlements, but a large fire forced them to migrate to the western part of this island, so now the hunters have to travel far to find them. Upon landing, they found animal tracks but didn't rush. Before starting the chase, they set up camp to eliminate any worries, allowing them to focus entirely on hunting. The area, full of pastures and dense bushes, is perfect for reindeer but also attracts bears. With fog rolling in, they were about to lose visibility, so they decided to fish for their dinner instead. Hunters always carry fishing gear, making it easy to secure a meal if they find the right spot. In these waters, not only humans look for food, sea otters were also seen fishing nearby. However, Justin proved more skilled and successfully caught a silver fish. With fresh fish in hand, they were set for a good meal that night. The next day, when the fog cleared, they put on their hunting gear and began searching for reindeer. They climbed higher, as herbivores prefer mid-slope or mountaintops in this still warm season. Soon, they reached a small foothill, and from this vantage point, they carefully scanned the area. Surprisingly, they spotted a male reindeer, its antlers still in velvet, through the binoculars. Since the shotgun's range was insufficient, they quietly moved closer. Once within range, Justin took aim and with a single shot, the reindeer fell, making the hunt swift and efficient. Marvin couldn't help but praise the clean kill. Velvet is valuable and can be sold for a good price, so they made sure to take it with them. To quickly transport the meat down the mountain, they processed the game on the spot. They skinned it, then divided the prime cuts, packing everything into their backpacks for easy transport. The locals only eat the best parts, so all organs except the heart and liver, and some bones, were left behind. Nature would take care of the remains in its own way. Back at camp, they didn't keep all the meat for themselves. The young hunters shared a significant portion with community elders who were unable to hunt. In Alaska, the homeland of salmon, local natives rarely eat raw fish. After catching fresh salmon, they either smoke it or cure it into salted fish. The fishing season in Akshiok is about to start. Marvin and his nephew Justin are building a new smokehouse. After smoking, the delicious salmon becomes a staple food for the locals during the winter. They began by digging 4 pits to stabilize the foundation, ensuring it was both solid and level. Next, they filled the holes with stones and compacted them. They then constructed the wall frames and connected them to the base, followed by building the roof. The exterior walls were covered with wooden planks. Since it's a smokehouse, it didn't need to be completely sealed as the smoke needed to escape. The smokehouse could be used for smoking, both salmon and venison. The roof was sloped to allow rainwater to run off. Since the wood and plywood were pre-cut, it only took them half a day to finish the smokehouse. With the smokehouse ready, they went to catch some salmon to test the smoking effect. Marvin took Justin and his family by boat to a spot where the river meets the sea. Before they even started netting, they saw fish jumping in the water, some even landing on the shore. Justin's son easily caught the first fish of the day. A few people secured one end of the net on the shore and stretched the other end into deeper water. Justin pulled the net while Marvin drove the boat around the fish, enclosing them. After circling back to shore, they gradually tightened the net. The salmon desperately tried to escape, but it was too late. Adults and children alike joined in the frenzy of collecting fish, one of the quickest ways to catch fish with a net. The joy of the harvest felt like winning a championship. In about an hour, they caught 50 fish, averaging 5 pounds each, totaling about 250 pounds worth $2,000. However, this catch was not for commercial purposes. It was solely for sustenance. Back home, they immediately processed the fish. First, they cut off the heads and sliced the fish from the back into 2, keeping the tails connected. They cleaned the fish and set them aside. After processing all the fish, they transported them to their smokehouse. They soaked the fish in salt water for an hour to sterilize and enhance the flavor, careful not to use too much salt to avoid the final product being too salty. After marinating, they hung the salmon to drain overnight. During the waiting period, they went into the forest to gather wood for smoking the fish. Justin chose alder wood for its sweeter flavor compared to other woods. With a chainsaw, he easily gathered enough wood for smoking. The first thing they did after returning home was to peel the bark off the alder and prepare it. They started with a layer of dry wood and then added wet wood on top to produce thick smoke. The smoking process had to last at least 7 days, no more, no less. After all the hard work, it was time to reward themselves. They cooked the first fish caught on the riverbank and enjoyed a delicious meal. Is there a job where you work once a year and it feeds you for a year? Actually, yes. Marvin, a native of Alaska, found just such a job. This year, he was lucky enough to draw his first commercial fishing license. Previously, if he caught salmon, he could only eat it himself or give it away. But with this license, he could sell the fish he caught for money, keeping all the income for himself. However, this year's catch was low and prices were not good, disappointing fishermen who rely on this for their livelihood. Therefore, local authorities decided to extend the fishing season by 33 hours. After receiving the news, Marvin called his nephew Justin to quickly set out to sea, aiming to make a substantial profit to cover his costs and earn enough for the next year's expenses. Since their last mishap with the fishing net, they analyzed and concluded that they had set it too close to the shore. This time, they chose a new location and used the same method to set the net, though it seemed longer this time. After setting up, they left to wait for the tide to change. 6 hours later, Marvin and Justin returned to the fishing ground for their first check. Typically, the net could catch many types of fish, but they were most interested in the few species of salmon that could be sold, especially the sockeye, which were the most numerous. Upon reaching the fishing spot, they began to slowly check the nets. This family-style fishing method was much like gambling. If they hit a school of fish, they could make a large sum. If not, they might not catch anything and lose the money spent on the nets. Marvin was fortunate this year. Although the first part of the net was empty, they soon began catching large quantities of fish, which was essentially like picking up money. After boxing the catch, they needed to quickly take it to the trading station to sell. The large boat had a crane to easily load the fish and weigh them for settlement. In 6 hours, Marvin caught 900 pounds of salmon. Due to the tight schedule, after recording their catch, they hurried back to continue fishing, hoping to bring in another full load. After several trips, Marvin had a substantial haul. As dusk approached, the fishing season was about to end, making this check likely the last one. While collecting the salmon, they also had to detach the nets and anchor lines. The final catch was still strong, with nearly every knot on the rope holding a salmon, which delighted Marvin. After hauling in the last boatload of fish, they made one more trip to the trading station to sell it and collect their money. A rough calculation showed that in 33 hours of work, Marvin could earn at least $10,000, possibly more. Indeed, it was, as the saying goes, work once a year, eat for a year. In Gambell on St. Lawrence Island, native Daniel discovered a walrus on the beach. He immediately went home, gathered his son and daughter, and prepared to go hunting by boat. They are Siberian Yupik, native to the area, and hunting walrus is a local tradition. A male walrus can be nearly 5 meters long and weigh up to 3 tons. Successfully hunting, one benefits the entire village. Gambell is one of the most desolate volcanic islands in the Bering Sea. The harsh natural conditions and barren land make agriculture and farming impossible, so the locals rely on the sea for sustenance. They are legally allowed to hunt not only walrus but also bowhead whales. After sailing, they stopped on a large patch of floating ice. Some used binoculars to watch the distance, others looked around, and some mimicked the call of walruses. The prey could appear from any direction at any location, so they were very alert. Suddenly, the walrus appeared. They started the boat and readied the rifles. The boat made noise as it bumped into the ice, so they had to navigate carefully. When they reached the optimal position, Chris aimed. Once the boat stabilized and the target stopped moving, he pulled the trigger. They watched as the shot hit the target and excitedly moved to check. To prevent the prey from sinking, they prepared a harpoon with a float. However, upon closer inspection, they found no blood nearby, meaning the bullet had missed. After searching the area for a long time and seeing no further signs of the walrus, it seemed it had been scared off and swum far away to surface for air. With the ocean currents constantly changing the ice, they couldn't stay in one place too long to avoid being trapped. Losing this opportunity made finding another walrus even more difficult. The weather forecast predicted very bad conditions for the following week, making hunting impossible. Just then, the current changed direction, and large ice sheets began moving, blocking their original route. They feared being trapped. If forced to spend the night at sea without resources, their lives could be at risk. They had to prematurely end their walrus hunting and quickly return to shore. Without a clear path, they worked together to rock the boat, breaking through the ice. Fortunately, the fresh ice wasn't very thick, and they forcefully made their way to safer waters. They searched for the walrus again but found nothing. As the sun was setting, the group had to hurry home to ensure their safety. The next day, unable to go out hunting, Daniel stayed at home and made walrus ivory crafts with his daughter. They usually collect walrus teeth to use as raw materials for crafts or as items for bartering. Although they currently couldn't go out to sea to hunt, using this time to craft and sell these items could help supplement their household income. Being skillful, his daughter had an advantage in crafting. Nalu took 2 small pieces of walrus ivory, carefully polished them until they were exceptionally smooth and uniform, and then added 2 loops to make a pair of earrings. She tried them on, and they looked quite good. Her father couldn't help but praise her work when he saw the finished product. The unsuccessful walrus hunt meant that food supplies would be tight, so they turned their attention to the North American reindeer on the island. The people here are poor, yet they eat top-quality food like North American reindeer, walrus, seal, and even bowhead whales. Gambell, located on St. Lawrence Island, is covered in ice and snow, making the land barren and unsuitable for farming. The local natives rely solely on fishing and hunting for their livelihood. After Daniel's family failed to hunt a walrus, the sea was completely covered with floating ice, making it impossible to go boating. With the family's food supply dwindling, they faced the risk of starvation. Daniel, now old, passed on the responsibility of providing for the family to his son Chris. Since the sea was inaccessible, Chris turned his attention to the only group of reindeer on the land. For safety, he decided to take his sister with him, both for protection and to give her some hunting experience. Before setting out, they calibrated their rifles, knowing that real hunting opportunities are fleeting and errors could lead to the family going hungry. Equipped, the siblings rode snowmobiles to the reindeer's location. The island is small, so they quickly found their quarry. The reindeer split into two groups, heading in different directions. Choosing one based on the road conditions, they started the chase. The open ice plains offered no cover. They had to speed up to get close to the prey. Once close, Chris instructed Nalu to get ready with her rifle to take the lead. He emphasized that she must shoot quickly after catching up, or risk losing the opportunity. After dividing their tasks, they split up and encircled the herd. Chris quickly caught up with the slowest reindeer, forcing it to change direction. Nalu followed and took her shot, but her hurried and moving target aim was unsuccessful. Seeing this, Chris chased after the reindeer. With his experience and natural hunting skills, he stopped, aimed, and fired smoothly and efficiently, securing their first catch and solving the family's immediate food problem. While the animal was still warm, they needed to quickly clean the organs to prevent the meat from spoiling. Despite the cold, winter is the best hunting season. With the game scarce this year and many in the village hungry, they planned to hunt as much as possible. Chris quickly processed the catch. With the day not yet over, they could still catch up with the group of reindeer. Unexpectedly, before they could start the chase, several deer ran towards them. Nalu hid behind the snowmobile and fired, but like before, her lack of experience meant she missed. However, she didn't give up and immediately chased after them on her snowmobile. This was her first deer, marking her ability to sustain herself a belated rite of passage. Now, not only did they have enough food for themselves, but they were also able to share plenty with their elders. After cleaning the game and loading it into the vehicle, they discarded the deer hide, organs, and head in the wild, leaving them for nature to reclaim. They returned to the village and brought a large portion of deer meat to their grandparents' house. The pride of being able to support the elderly with their own skills was a profound feeling that naturally emerged. Huntress Nalu aimed at a seal, planning to bring it home as food for her family. Between Alaska and Russia lies a small island called St. Lawrence, home to a tiny indigenous village named Gambell. This land, where nothing can be grown and no livestock can be raised, forces the local natives to rely on fishing and hunting to survive. Today, the experienced hunter Daniel planned to take his daughter Nalu out to sea to hunt a seal. It was Nalu's first time as a shooter in a hunting party. She was nervous and scared, but mostly excited. Shortly after setting out to sea, they encountered a group of seabirds, a good sign for hunters. The presence of seabirds usually indicates nearby fish, which attract seals, walruses, and even whales. After a while, they indeed found a feeding school of fish, expecting seals to be nearby. They decided to search the area, but not every guess yields the correct result. Realizing there were no seals nearby, they turned back to continue following the seabirds. This time, they successfully located their target. Daniel quickly signaled to Nalu to get ready for the hunt. However, Nalu discovered that her rifle was unloaded. By the time she prepared her weapon, the seal had disappeared. Nonetheless, they knew the seal would have to resurface to breathe. As expected, the seal reappeared, but Nalu missed her shot. Shortly after, the seal surfaced again. This time she fired without hesitation, but still missed by a slight margin. Startled, the seal was unlikely to surface again soon, so they decided to adjust their position for another opportunity. Truthfully, aiming for a seal's head, which is the size of a fist from a rocking boat, is challenging even for experienced hunters. Therefore, Daniel did not blame her, but instead offered more encouragement. They continued their journey as a thick fog began to envelop the sea, limiting visibility and making hunting difficult. Despite the poor visibility, Daniel's keen eyes spotted a seal, but unfortunately, Nalu couldn't see it through her scope. Given the time and worsening weather, they should have ended the hunt. However, Nalu was not ready to give up. Traditionally, the role of shooter had been dominated by the men in her family, and she rarely had the chance to prove herself. Daniel, indulging his daughter, sped the boat out of the foggy area and followed the seabirds to a beach known for seal hunting. On stable land, Nalu had a better chance of success, assuming they could find a seal nearby. The father and daughter split up. Daniel lay on the ground scanning with binoculars while Nalu used her scope from behind a pile of rocks. In the quiet, she remembered her recently deceased grandfather, who had passed all the tribal traditions to Daniel, and now, to her. In the future, these traditions would be passed on to her descendants, perpetuating their cultural legacy. Daniel was the first to spot a target and signaled to his daughter. Spotting a seal's head in the vast sea is challenging. As the wind grew stronger, it was time to end the day's hunt. Any further delay could worsen the sea conditions, risking their small boat in potentially larger waves. Hunters living in Alaska are busy every day trying to survive. They hunt ptarmigan and icefish for salmon, with each meal featuring plenty of fish and meat. For fat and oil during the winter, they hunt a seal, and if they need to secure food for a longer period, they catch a moose. If one moose isn't enough, they hunt another. To prevent food shortages, the men cannot afford to stay idle at home. Whenever ptarmigans migrate to their area, the family elder, John, takes Sana out hunting daily. Hunting ptarmigan might seem simple, but it can be challenging for a novice hunter to spot these camouflaged creatures in the snow. Today, for some reason, Sana kept missing his shots, managing to get only one ptarmigan after much effort. Soon he will join the army, and before he leaves, John wants to teach him as much about their traditional culture as possible, so they spend a lot of time together. While talking, another ptarmigan was hit but not fatally. To avoid wasting food, they quickly pursued it. Although the injured ptarmigan was fast, the young hunter could not catch up, and John couldn't help but laugh at his grandson's misfortune. Letting an injured animal escape is a serious failure for a hunter, so they had to chase it down on their motorcycle. After spotting the target, Sana approached alone and, with 2 shots, successfully secured the injured ptarmigan. As he was picking up his catch, he spotted another one nearby. He took aim and successfully bagged his 3rd ptarmigan of the day. In their belief, it is their acts of kindness that lead animals to offer themselves up. What they call luck is simply the reward for their good deeds. At this point, the hunt was essentially over. Before heading home, they gathered some dry wood and cut it to the sizes they needed. These pieces would be carved into ornaments rich in cultural significance, such as masks and toys commonly used by children. These artifacts are also a part of their tradition. Today, John was making an Arctic tern, a prop used in dancing. He first shaped the main body out of wood, then carved 2 thin pieces of wood for the wings, tying them together with a stick and inserting ptarmigan feathers. This ancient artifact, which dates back thousands of years, was used by their ancestors to pray to the Creator for favorable weather and bountiful harvests. After completing the object, the old man began teaching his grandchildren how to perform the dance and explained its symbolic meaning. In modern times, it's challenging to keep younger generations interested in this traditional culture. Ensuring its continuation is a daunting task. Meanwhile, the women, using sharp ulu knives, separated the black seal meat from the fat. The Inuit prefer the fresh, juicy fat over lean meat because of its versatility. Seal oil, derived from the fat, is used for heating, lighting, cooking, and maintaining clothing, and is vital to their survival. However, with the advent of modern society, gasoline and electricity have almost completely replaced the functions of seal oil. Now, Alaska natives hunt seals primarily for their meat, and the precious fat is mainly consumed. To hunt a seal, old John, along with his son, daughter, and grandson, arrived at the river early in the morning and soon spotted their target. The main shooter today was Lawson, and this would be his first time hunting a seal. Success would mean completing his rite of passage. After spotting the seal, the family carefully observed the area, waiting for it to surface to breathe. They then informed Lawson of its precise location so he could make the kill. This was not an easy task, as young hunters are generally less accurate, especially on a rocking boat, which further complicates the hunt. After finally locating where the seal surfaced, Lawson, as expected, missed his shot. The startled seal did not reappear for a long time, forcing the family to adjust their position and search for another opportunity. After patient searching, they caught up with it again. Lawson fired on time but still missed. After the 3rd attempt, which also failed, Lawson needed to learn from these failures and grow quickly in order to become a provider for the family. To avoid damaging his confidence too much, his father decided to step in as a backup to assist him. Despite several more failures, through relentless effort, Lawson finally succeeded in hitting the seal on his own. To prevent the seal from sinking, they quickly sailed over, secured it with a harpoon, and then hauled it onto the boat. Although Lawson looks youthful, he has now become a true hunter. Successfully hunting a bearded seal is considered a 5-star honor among the natives. According to tradition, hunters give the seal a final cup of water to thank it for sacrificing its life, then cut open the seal's forehead with a knife to release its spirit into the cycle of reincarnation. These procedures demonstrate the respect owed to the prey. After the hunt, the family returns to Shivak to process the game. They discarded the seal's internal organs by the river and took the body back home. The rest of the task was handed over to the women of the house. Using sharp ulu knives, they separated the meat from the fat. Since this was Lawson's first seal, tradition dictates that it be given entirely to the community elders. The women, having grown up in this environment, each have their specialties, such as skinning or cutting meat. When there is work to be done, they come together to help each other. Many hands make light work. After a vigorous effort by several people, the seal was quickly butchered and sorted. During this time, the elders in the community had been notified to come and share the seal meat. Each person could take some fat and some lean meat. Although it wasn't much, it was enough to last them a few days. The elders took the meat and also left blessings for Lawson. Now that this young man has the ability to support a family, it is believed that he will soon become an outstanding hunter in the community. Autumn has arrived, and moose season is about to open. John's family needs to hunt a moose for food to safely get through the winter. In Chivak, Alaska during the fall, hunters target a moose weighing over 1,000 pounds. When the trigger is pulled, the animal falls, providing enough meat to prevent the family from starving during winter. It's the annual moose season again, and with the harsh winter approaching, old John takes his family to the hunting grounds in Chivak. Sana, the shooter, must stay alert as the moose could appear at any moment. Due to various regulations on salmon fishing, the natives can no longer rely on fish for survival. Thus, the 1,000-pound moose has become their most important food source. Hunting just one can feed a family for a year. Today, they were lucky to quickly find a moose by the river, but it was too far away for an accurate shot, so they had to give up. On their way, they passed their own land and decided to check on the wooden cabin, which had deteriorated into a mound of earth due to neglect. They plan to rebuild the cabin when they have time, making future hunts more convenient and providing a place to stay. For now, they set up a temporary tent to solve their immediate concerns. Old John and Sana returned to the boat to continue their search. Moose are known for their keen hearing and sight, and the noise from the boat's engine usually makes them hide motionlessly in the bushes. The hunters must find a way to draw them out. These large animals typically stay in the bushes or drink at freshwater lakes, so the two focused their search in such areas. After some searching, Sana was the first to spot a moose, a legally huntable male. He quickly pulled out his rifle and prepared to fire, but the moose ran off too fast and disappeared into the bushes. Old John had his grandson chase the moose on land. Despite their efforts, they couldn't make it reappear, so they returned to the boat to pursue it via water. Soon, they caught up with the moose. Without hesitation, Sana aimed from the boat, but his first shot missed. Fortunately, the moose wasn't scared off. It stayed put, curiously looking their way. Sana quickly took another shot and successfully took down the moose. Winter food is now secured. Normally, a wounded moose still poses a significant threat due to its aggressiveness, so hunters must approach cautiously. Even if the prey appears motionless, it's tested with a rifle before approaching. Afterwards, he returned to the boat, called John, and brought tools for butchering the moose. Since the hide isn't very valuable, they didn't focus on preserving its entirety, chopping off entire moose legs with the skin still on. The most challenging part was dealing with the large stomach, as accidentally cutting it could spill contents and contaminate the meat. After butchering, they discarded the inedible organs and transported everything else back to the boat. As John and his grandson returned to camp in the evening with their haul, the whole family was overjoyed at the sight of food. To reward the hunters, tonight's feast would include moose, heart, liver, and tongue. As many families were waiting for meat, the moose, though large, wasn't enough for everyone. Old John decided to use his quota to hunt a second moose. Unaware, another 1,000-pound moose roamed freely in the wilderness but was already being targeted by the two hunters. Old John skillfully shot it without even using a scope, marking their second major catch of the autumn. Combined, the meat from both moose would help several families through the harsh winter. This is Chivak, Alaska, where native hunter John and his grandson Sana have just completed their second moose hunt. Some hunters spend an entire autumn without seeing a moose, but their consecutive successful hunts were incredibly lucky. The pair hadn't expected to catch anything, so they hadn't brought butchering tools and now needed to quickly return to camp to fetch them. While hunting, John noticed many berries in the hunting area, so on their return, he brought his wife Teresa and daughter to gather them. He and his grandson would butcher the game, while the female family members picked berries. The weather wasn't too cold yet, so they hurried to process the moose to prevent the meat from spoiling. Teresa was already busy at work, especially enjoying the cranberries, which are rich in vitamin C and have medicinal properties. Every autumn, the natives collect these berries to last through the winter, as other fruits like melons and peaches are considered luxuries here. While they worked, a large animal nearby was also searching for Berisa muskox. Fortunately, they spotted it early, as such a large beast could pose a danger if it appeared suddenly. Once John and Sana finished butchering the game, they transported all the meat, except the organs, back to the boat. By then, Teresa had almost finished collecting the berries. They all boarded the boat and returned to their camp.